Hello and welcome back to the Joyful Soul Creates. Today I'm sharing my very first video of the year, which is using some of the elements from Love From Lizi's December card kit. I'm a little bit behind on sharing my card kits, but I thought I'd show this one anyway, even though the next one has already been released and I believe sold out already as well. So in this card kit there was a stamp set, the Flutterby stamp set, and also a coordinating stencil, also called Flutterby. And the coordinating stencil you can use to colour in your butterfly images, and that's what I'm going to be showing in this video. I'm just doing a quick, clean and simple one-layer card that demonstrates how to use coordinating stencils to colour in your stamps. To begin, I've made a card base using the Ivory card that came in the kit, and I'm positioning my stamps onto it. I've chosen one of the sentiments and the three largest butterflies. I considered putting some of the smaller butterflies in as well to fill the design out a bit, but I decided to leave it simpler and just have these three. And I'm using my MISTI for the stamping. I've masked off the back side of the card because the stamp at the top will very slightly overlap, and the paper I'm using for masking this off is actually the little note that Lizi puts in all of the kits, so that's one use for the note. And I'm going to use Simon Says Stamp clear sticky ink to stamp with because I will be heat embossing these. So I just ink them up well and press down and make sure it's all pressed very well so that I don't miss any areas. And then I'm going to be heat embossing them using the embossing powder that also came in this kit, which is Ivory Pearl embossing powder. It's very pretty and it gives a kind of tone on tone look on this card. I will have links down below to everything that I used in this video, so you can easily find them if you would like to get hold of them for yourself. I realised once I had the powder on that there was something on my sentiment stamp, so a part of it hadn't stamped properly, but I was able to just brush away where the mistake was, and then I re-stamped it after I'd heat set it. And you may have noticed I have a coffee filter underneath my card base when I'm adding my powder. This just makes it easier to collect the excess powder and then funnel it back into the pot. If you've watched my videos before, you might remember I mentioned that you can't get these kinds of coffee filters here in Finland, and Sue very kindly posted some to me, so thank you very much for those, Sue. They're very useful and I'm sure I'll be using them a lot in future. Okay, so now I'm going to heat set the stamped images and sentiment, and I had my heat gun heating up off to the side whilst I was doing the stamping just to make sure it's good and hot, and you can see the powder melting and turning shiny. And then I'll just quickly restamp just the sentiment. The butterflies don't need to be restamped because they took fine, but there's a little gap in the middle of my sentiment, so I lined it back up, stamped it again, put some more embossing powder and melted that. And that's the beauty of the MISTI or whichever other stamping positioning tool you might have, is that if you leave your stamps in and if you remember where you had your card positioned, then you can just restamp over it if something needs to be done again to make sure it's nice and tidy. Otherwise it can be quite difficult to line it back up and you might end up with a double stamped image or sentiment, which is not what we're after. Then I will bring in my little craft mat, Teflon craft mat, and the stencil, and I'm going to do some ink blending to colour in these butterflies. I decided to go with blues because I felt that would go nicely with the yellow tones of the ivory, because blue and yellow are quite complementary to each other. I'm just using some masking tape to mask off the other butterflies near the one that I need, just in case I go over the edge with my ink blending. It does happen, so masking them off makes sure that the ink won't get where I don't want it. I'm going to be using two colours of ink for this ink blending, or two shades. They're both Distress Oxides, and the lighter one is Tumbled Glass, and then also I will put just a little Mermaid Lagoon towards the centre of the butterfly's body just to give a bit more depth to the colour. It's very simple blending, just using the ink blending tool, tapping it on and blending it out. Very straightforward, and as long as you have the correct butterfly from the stencil to match the stamped one, it will line up perfectly and colour it perfectly. The ink will get on top of the embossing, but it's easy enough to rub it off when you finish. The embossing powder will resist that ink, so just rub it with a soft cloth afterwards and you will get the shine back. I'll repeat the process with the other two butterflies. Just takes a moment to check which of the holes in the stencil is the one I need. Do make sure you have the correct one before you start blending, because if you don't, then your ink will not fit the butterfly correctly. But once you've worked it out, it's very straightforward, and I found it very easy to work out which one was which. It only took me a moment. And again, I'll go in with the Tumbled glass and the Mermaid Lagoon Distress Oxides. You could choose any colours you want really here. It depends what colour combination you're going for. You could even use 2 different colours, or maybe even 3, but if you're using the kind of blending tools I used, it might be a bit difficult to get more than 2 colours in. Maybe if you have the fingertip blending stumps, those would work better with multiple colours. Having completed all the blending, the card is pretty much finished. I decided I would add some Nuvo jewel drops just as a final touch, and I'm going to use the Sea Breeze ones for this, and these are kind of translucent blue colour. So I'm going along the same diagonal design and just adding them here and there and making sure I have an odd number overall. This kind of diagonal works well on cards because, at least in English language, we read from left to right. Some other languages I know don't, but as we read from left to right, it's natural for our eyes to go across the page in that direction. So having your diagonal line go from the top left to the bottom right kind of follows the natural way that your eyes go when you're looking at something. And that completes my card. It has some very pretty shine from that embossing powder, and I really loved how easy it was to add the colour to the butterflies with the stencil. You could of course just stamp them and colour them with your alcohol markers or paint them as well, but the stencil adds a nice easy option for how to do them. And you can use this stencil as a standalone too without stamping the wings of the butterfly. Lizzie included some bodies for the butterfly in this stamp set if you would want to do it that way. Thank you so much for watching my first video of 2019. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do hit the like button. If you didn't, the dislike button is right next to it. If you'd like to see more of my videos, you can press the subscribe button, which is on screen now, to never miss a video. There are also a couple of other videos that you may enjoy. Thank you for watching, and I will see you again next time. Bye!